Hi dear guys, I hope you are doing well. I'm Arshia, and this is also my channel. If you're interested in smartphone reviews, this channel is for you. This POCO F6 is one of the best mid-range phones from Xiaomi. The POCO F6 is a full mid-range phone, and its build quality shows that. Xiaomi used plastic for the back and frame of the phone, which keeps the price low and makes the phone light. The phone weighs only 179 grams, which is lighter than the POCO F6 Pro, and about 35 grams lighter than the Galaxy A55 from Samsung, which uses glass and metal for its body. Also, the thickness of the POCO F6 is about half a millimeter less than the POCO F6 Pro and the A55. With its slightly curved edges, this phone fits well in your hand and feels comfortable to hold. You can buy the POCO F6 in green, black, and titanium colors. The one we have for review is green. Even though the back of the phone is smooth and plain, it doesn't slip out of your hand. What's interesting is that even though the back is shiny, it doesn't get fingerprint smudges or oil marks. The POCO F6 has an IP64 rating, which means the phone is protected against dust and water splashes. But remember, you can't put this phone in water like other phones with an IP68 rating because it's not that waterproof. Okay, friends kiss you all. Please give us some support and like the video. Don't be stingy. Thanks a lot. Since I'm talking about the good design points, I have to mention that the screen bezels are really thin. It's something impressive. Only the bottom bezel is a little thicker, but it's not as noticeable as the bezels on the Galaxy A55 or the Galaxy S5 FE. The screen on the POCO F6 is also technically amazing. It has a 12-bit OLED panel that can show 68 billion colors with a 1.5K resolution and excellent pixel density. This screen can really shine for any user and any use. The colors are produced very accurately, and depending on the color mode you choose in the settings, you can get the most vibrant color space possible. Xiaomi has a habit of adding features to its mid-range phones that you usually only find in flagship models, and sometimes not even there. For example, the POCO F6 supports Dolby Vision and HDR10+, which makes the screen brightness truly amazing. When you watch HDR content, the brightness will blow your mind. According to our tests, the screen can produce a crazy 2750 nits of brightness, which is even higher than the 2400 nits Xiaomi claimed, and about 1300 nits more than the POCO F6 Pro. This is really impressive for a screen. Plus, the screen is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus, which makes it pretty resistant to scratches and damage. This visual experience is made even better by the stereo speakers, which sound really good. The speaker volume is great, and they separate different instruments in songs very well. The bass and drums sound strong and punchy. However, in busy metal songs, the sound can get a little messy. Overall, the volume doesn't quite match the S23 FE, but the sound is clearer. Even though everything has been good so far, there's one thing about the POCO F6 that stands out in a bad way: the large camera bump. It's really noticeable and not very nice to look at. They kept the same design from the previous model, the POCO F5, without any improvement. Honestly, the size of the camera bump on a mid-range phone like this feels unnecessary. If Xiaomi had made it a bit smaller, the phone would look much better. Luckily, unlike many phones that force a macro camera into their setup, like the POCO X6 Pro or even the A55, Xiaomi only used a wide and ultra-wide camera on this phone, which is really good and enough. The main camera has a 50-megapixel sensor that can record 4K videos with good detail, and it also supports optical image stabilization, OIS. The ultra-wide camera has an 8-megapixel sensor, but it doesn't seem to have any special features. The 20-megapixel selfie camera can record videos in full HD. To understand how well the POCO F6 camera performs, we compared some camera shots with the A55, which has a really good camera. In both the main camera and the ultra-wide camera, the POCO shows a bit less detail compared to the A55. However, this difference isn't that obvious at first glance. You'll only notice it when you zoom in a lot. When it comes to reducing noise in photos, Both phones perform almost the same. It's hard to say which one is better or worse. Another point is that in some situations, the POCO F6 can't maintain dynamic range as well as the A55. It struggles a bit with balancing dark and light areas in the image. The main camera of the POCO F6 takes decent shots in low light. However, the ultra-wide camera doesn't perform well in most scenarios. The selfie camera takes good pictures in daylight, but in the default settings, it makes colors look too soft and affected. This softening gets worse in low light. Overall, besides the strong beauty effect, the selfie photos are good and acceptable. Now, let's move on to the exciting part. Hardware performance, especially gaming. I know many of you are eager to hear this because many want to know if this phone performs better than the POCO X6 Pro. The POCO X6 Pro has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, the same powerful chip used in flagship phones like the Galaxy S23 Ultra. This chip is a slightly weaker version of Qualcomm's top chipset, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Don't be discouraged by the weaker term. Even with this slightly weaker version, the POCO X6 Pro performs about 20% better than flagship phones. However, if you are looking at the A55, it's a much better option for you. In the $500 range, the main weaknesses of the POCO F6 compared to phones like the Xiaomi 13T Pro and the Galaxy S23 FE are in camera performance and premium design. The processor performance of the POCO F6 isn't as good as those phones. Okay, we've reached the end of the video. What do you think about the POCO F6 or Redmi Turbo 3? Do you think it's worth buying? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Goodbye.